Hello everyone, and welcome to another very special episode. She Scores Bangers is teaming up with the Northern Super League over the next few weeks to bring you exclusive interviews with players and others that are gearing up for their inaugural season, set to kick off on April 16th. The NSL, founded by former Canada International Diana Matheson, is Canada's first ever professional women's soccer league, with 6 clubs based in Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. You can catch the action on CBC, TSN, and other online streaming platforms. Today's guest stands as one of the tallest in the league, rising at 5'9" as a defender. Representing California State University and later Eastern Washington University, she's had an illustrious college career stateside. Professionally, she has played all across the world in Turkey, Sweden, Iceland, Spain, Israel, Malta, and now finally making her last stop in Canada. Bringing the California heat and the California sun over to a cold Halifax and to the Halifax Tides is none other than Kiley Norkus. Kiley, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. First day in the books today, so excited and having a cool opportunity to talk with you today.
I'm very excited to talk with you as well. You were not born and raised in a very cold area, but you are now residing in a very cold area. How are you dealing with the winter?
Honestly, it's very rough. If I'm gonna be just totally transparent, it's hard because apparently it's been way colder than normal here. And yeah, I just have the parka, I have the layers, I have the beanie, kind of sprinting from the car to the facility type thing is going on with me to probably for the next couple of months too.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So you
it's all right.
prefer sunny California probably over this?
Yeah, but it's actually beautiful too. I have a big window in my apartment, and obviously I have the heater cranked all the way up, but I get to see all the white snow, and that's not something I grew up with, or I experienced it just a few times in my life. So I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful just sipping some tea at night. So,
It's certainly different vibes and feels in a winter that is this harsh, especially this time of year in February. But
mhm.
it's the Halifax Tides that has you over here. But I just kind of touched on it. You grew up in California. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about how you started playing soccer and kind of your childhood being involved in sports.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I didn't start playing soccer until I was like 12 or 13. So I started way later than most people in California anyway. Um, Obviously, like we just talked about, the weather is beautiful year round. So soccer's played year round. And we have super competitive leagues and everything like that. But I always played different sports. I did a lot of water sports like wakeboarding, surfing, skateboarding, baseball, swimming. I just like did a lot of activities. Um, I have 4 brothers, and 3 of them played American football, not the real football, obviously, soccer, but we are just always so active. And one day my dad was like, let's go to this little tryout thing at this middle school. And I was like, no, like soccer is dumb. Like I want to be able to use my hands. Like it feels more natural. And he took me there, and I was just like resisting. I don't know. I might have been crying, just something like throwing a fit. And he literally just forced me, and I went, and it was like the first love of my life. The first day, it was an unexplainable feeling. And I feel like that's how you could describe what passion feels like. It just was like this huge flame and like spark. And I just fell in love. And ever since that first day, I played soccer nonstop. I would like journal about it, like draw pictures. I would watch soccer. I was just truly obsessed with it since that first practice.
So I guess if your parents are telling you let's go to soccer practice and try out, be open to the idea, kiddos.
Yes, you might end up in a professional league. So,
You never know how things work out. You said you wanted to do something that was with your hands. Did you ever like try to slot in and be a goalkeeper or like that wasn't an option?
oh no, no, zero goalkeeping genetics in my blood. That is for sure. I guess it's kind of fun if you're messing around with friends, but I'm always like, no, you got it. I'll be out on the field still.
I'll stick with my feet
Yeah, I feel
for
way
soccer.
more comfortable with my feet ever since that day. I'm like, oh, it's actually way more natural than my hands for some reason.
Tell me a little bit about then kind of loving the sport and falling in love with it. You said you journaled, you watched, you could say you became pretty obsessed with this new
Yeah,
sport. Did you
yeah.
kind of know from the get-go this is what you wanted to do when you, as all youngsters say, grow up?
Yeah, I did since that moment, since that first day. And I remember it, like all the visuals of that first day so clearly, where I was, who was there, the coach, the grass, the little fences around, like everything was so vivid. And ever since then, I was just like, I want to play on the national team, which it didn't pan out. I was already a little bit too old to kind of get involved. Sounds crazy at 13, but America is so competitive with all of that and ODP and all this stuff. But I was like, oh, the national team's so cool. Abby Wambach, like, all these legends, like did a book report on Mia Hamm in middle school. So I just truly became obsessed with it. And I was like, I'm going to play in college and at a good college. I'm going to do good. I'm going to go play pro. I don't care where it is. Obviously, when you're younger, you don't really know like all these different leagues in Europe exist. So I was like, I'm going to play in America right away and just do do all that. And my path went in a different direction, which I'm really thankful and blessed about.
Mhm.
But yeah, ever since day one, I literally was like, I'm going to do this no matter what.
I love that. That's, I mean, quite literally, you could say love at first sight.
It seriously was love at first sight. I always say, like, my first love was soccer on that day.
Wow. I feel
Yeah.
like quite literally in the historic books, whatever that day was, however the tryout went,
Yeah.
it seems like it put you on the course of starting a professional soccer career like this, and you did eventually go off to have a fantastic collegiate soccer, obviously both the California State University as well as in Washington. Tell me
Yeah.
about that journey, kind of obviously transferring in the middle of it, but sort of riding on that momentum and getting to enjoy your soccer more and more as it seemed.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I was playing in LA for a while and that was awesome. Super different experience because my hometown is so small and like just a beach, like farmers market, these little cute things. And I was in this huge, crazy town of LA. And I learned so much about myself, about the intensity that college soccer brings compared to club soccer and ECNL, which is like the National League traveling around when you're younger. And I ended up wanting to transfer. A lot of us ended up transferring, and I was like, I want to see what a new state is like. I haven't really lived outside of it. I was so young. And so I went to Washington State, saw my first snowfall, had my first winter scraping the ice off my windshield with that little scraper thing. And yeah, the love always continued. It kind of turns into a career at some point, but you still have that passion. You have to find that mix and balance. Um, yeah, I had a great time in both at both colleges and like grew a lot in soccer and as a person. So I wouldn't change it if I went back.
Yeah, no, that scrappy thing for the ice, I feel like it's certainly going to be handy now. So good experience using it in
Yeah,
Washington,
seriously.
like you said. But was it a little bit difficult moving away from home and just kind of, I think a lot of, university kids at that age say, yes, I want to be away from family, away from home, just kind of experience kind of my university career. But having to balance out soccer and academics and still having to perform at a high level if you knew you wanted to go professional, was there some sort of pressure or you just enjoyed the journey?
I would say both. I feel like the pressure was more coming from myself. So I think I got a lot of support from the outside, um, looking in, I guess, like all my family, my friends, like coaches. Obviously you have the one or two like haters, but that means that you're legit. So I felt really loved and supported and had a lot of help along the way. And so, yeah, I always felt good about my journey. I always put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, I make one mistake all training and I'm like, oh, like that's the only thing. I'm like, oh, I need to do this and not do that again. And so I had to learn how to not fixate only on my mistakes and learn how to also focus on the things I did well. And
Hmm.
that was a journey in itself. So the pressure came from myself, really. Everyone else supported me.
I think those are very valuable lessons, I think, to carry on with your career, and hopefully for some of the youngsters listening here that, want to be the next NSL big thing, but not to be too harsh on your mistakes, and use it obviously as a lesson. You wrap up a pretty successful, I think, on a good momentum, let's say, with college. You want to go professional, you look around. What was that process? Because obviously, I think in the US, it's quite competitive. There was already setups there, but it's also a huge, large country with a lot of folks that play soccer.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like, at least in my opinion, a lot of people were getting drafted out of like Stanford, UCLA, like Texas A&M, schools like that. And I was like, all right, us like good D1 schools we won back-to-back championships. Like we were really putting ourselves on the map, but we weren't really getting looks for that draft situation. So I'm like, let me go to Europe. Like this is really cool experience. And I met this guy like through coaching. I was kind of helping with coaching a little bit, just like figuring out in like summer before I graduated, like I don't know what to do and how to get to where I want to be, but I'm going to do it. And he just was like, I'm connected to this team in Spain, like just fly out on your own dime, which is not the typical journey, but just come out here, trial, I'll set it up and see what happens. And I was like, all right, I'm coming. And so I did it. I got out there and I trialed for like, I think like a week, and they like gladly accepted me and like signed a contract, and it just took off from there. I started feeling like how the process works slowly over time. So yeah, that journey is like a huge 5-hour talk probably, but that's how it initially began, was that.
Spain Chronicles, the next upcoming episode. But you had a pretty fun time in Spain. Named MVP, you were the top scorer. It seemed that you got to enjoy. I think maybe it was because the sun. It was replicant of California. And then you transitioned a little bit on the pitch in terms of positioning, and then you went over to Iceland. Those are all, I think, it seemed to sharpen your toolbox. Talk to me about those different experiences and kind of bringing that wealth of experience now over here to the NSL.
Yeah, that's a good question. Every country I've played in, I've learned a different style of soccer, I would say, and a different level of like mental resilience and maturity in life and in soccer. But so like, for example, Spain, when I first got there, I was running so much in North America, specifically America, like it's just run, tackle, run. Like if you're not moving, you're doing something wrong. And when I got there, they kept saying, Americano, calm down, you're running too much. Like, and I was so confused. And they said, just pass, move, let the game flow. So I had to learn that whole new style that I never really felt introduced to. So I kind of picked a little bit of that and put it in my toolbox. Moved on to Iceland. There's a whole new style, like kind of a little bit of American style in there too. So picked up some things there. And all the rest of the countries I was in, just kind of tried to pick what I enjoyed, picked what I was good at, try to get better at things that I wasn't as good at, and just like refine myself as a soccer player. And to finish your question, bringing it into Halifax, right? That was the second part of your question. Yeah.
I just, you said Americano, and I'm just trying to picture where you're like running, trying to grab the ball as you've been taught your pretty much your entire soccer career, and they're like, Americano, don't run. Like that's.
Yeah. And it just like everything got flipped upside down because that is the opposite of what I've heard my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think, like you mentioned, we're kind of used to, right? A lot of North American players go over to Europe to start their professional career over there, but we kind of don't consider the different styles of play because, I mean, there really are just 180 flip. And again, in Europe, it's all very different. Like Iceland's not the same as Sweden, it's not the same as Spain, like you highlighted.
Yeah.
To be determined how the NSL is going to play out. Maybe it's going to be a mix of both because of the experiences that we're bringing in. But how did the opportunity of Tides come together, and just what was it that was appealing about the club?
Oh my gosh, like so many things that were appealing to me about this specific club. I'll just name a few. So being in Europe for so long, I was like, I'm kind of missing comfortability in terms of being closer to home and having that North American feel, like knowing what's being talked about, because like the same language is happening here, like English to English. just, I could drive around. I know the rules. I know the area. Like I'm getting to know the area. It feels very comfortable. And I was craving that after so long of just kind of living out of my suitcase, bouncing to teams every year. And that was something that really was enticing to me, as well as it being a new league. And I know a lot of really OG, like big time women have started this league and really helped make it happen. I know more about the American League growing up than I do like the Canadian players and like history. But I just support women, creating opportunity. And it feels similar to America, like Abby Wambach and all these players back then, like creating all these opportunities for Americans. And it's similar to what I'm hearing from my teammates here in Canada and throughout the years of playing. It's similar to that. Like they really were the paving force for us. And now this is created. And I'm like, it's just so cool to be able to be a part of the first year here and start a culture that is really family feeling. And we're really honing in on that in Halifax. So that was something really driven home by our coaches and staff members and stuff, that we really want to feel together and as a unit and family, and just an incredible culture where we're always there for each other. And that's not how it is in a lot of places. So I was ready to feel that love and give that love and just feel like fully fulfilled and help fulfill my teammates in that way. So I really like the mission in that.
Some of the conversations that I've had with the leadership group, again, highlighted community and sort of the identity that this club wants to have, but they want to be close to the fans. They want to be close to the region. What were some of your conversations with the leadership group that, I'm sure as a new league, there's questions, there's doubts, you've never seen it on TV. How did they sort of address some of those concerns and answer your questions?
Yeah. Well, everyone's been so open, like literally every day, even today after training, we did some fitness tests and whatnot. They're like, if you want any of the diets changed of the breakfast and lunch, like, please just let us know. Like, or if your shorts are fitting weird, please let us know. We'll literally order like a different pair. Like, so I feel like they're very open to us giving suggestions and also asking questions. So that is really comforting, knowing that we could just be so open. Because like I said, a lot of times maybe you don't feel as comfortable speaking up to a coach or a manager, and you're like, oh, maybe I won't say anything. But here, everyone's been obviously respectful, but able to give suggestions. And if anything of concern ever pops up eventually, I'm sure people will feel really free to speak up and find a solution. But so far, I haven't had concerns. I feel happy. I'm just adjusting to the time. I'm adjusting to the weather. I'm adjusting to new country still, even if it's closer to home. But yeah, so that's that. It's been really great.
That's, I think, very important to hear, because together, but most out of the players on the pitch, they need to be comfortable, they need to be happy, they need to be enjoying the environment that they're in. You've obviously, I mean, you've mentioned it, big fan of the game. You're obsessed with the game. You watch it. You're very familiar with a lot of the big names. Women's football, women's soccer is on the rise. It's really quickly changing. How important is it that not only you're obviously making history with the NSL, but to see another league, professional league, up and coming into the game and being involved in it now that you've seen sort of how the structure works and how things are coming together?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly am just excited to help make this league grow, like to be involved with cool podcasts like this. And like we're going to a hockey game tonight, and just be able to represent our club, represent our club. And nationwide, we have players all over the world. And I know a lot of people from home in California follow the club, are reposting it, supporting it. Same with all of our girls from like France, Japan, New Zealand, stuff like that. So I think that I'm just really proud to be a part of this and see the game grow. And of course, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish we had this all happening more prominently when I was young, like super young. But that part is like a tiny bit of me. It's in like a loving way where I'm like, oh, but it's so cool to see these young players come up to us at our mascot reveal yesterday and stuff. And they're just like, can you sign the soccer ball? Can you sign my jersey? And they're just like, look at us in such awe. And it's almost an imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, I was you and now I'm me right now. And it feels not real sometimes, and I'm waiting for it to set in. Maybe it will after our first game, but everything's been so professional, and I'm just like so stoked to be a part of this growth. And like you said, it's like a monumental year. It's the first year of the league.
Of course, it's huge, I think, for Canada, for professional soccer, for the game in general, because for long, Canadians have not had certainly role models at home to look for. We have an incredible Canadians national team who's done brilliantly on the international stage, but having that visibility at home is so, so important. You're one of very few Americans that have joined the league. And like you mentioned, we're seeing a lot of internationals come in or folks that have spent their entire international career away and now come back to Canada. What do you think that tells us about the professional opportunities in Canada being presented to Americans?
I think that it means that people know that the league's going to be strong. Like over time, it's going to get stronger and stronger. Obviously, the first year, people are like probably asking, oh, is it going to be strong? Is it not? Like, what's going to happen? But I think that if players are committing to playing in Canada, like players from around the world, like you said, Americans specifically for me, like I said earlier, Japan, New Zealand, all these places, if they're flying all around the world and leaving their families, comfort things, their familiarities behind, they're fully committing. They're putting all their cards on the table. Like I'm all in. Like I'm all in with this league. You're not gonna fly and leave all those things if you're not all the way bought in. So it seems like everyone's really rating this league. I am. That's why I chose to come here, like one of the reasons. And so yeah, to answer your question, I think everyone's just like thinks that everything's gonna keep growing and growing, which I think so too.
I think it's super exciting. I think obviously Canada and the US have their big rivalry on the international stage. Hopefully in the future we'll see a mashup between the NWSL and the NSL. You've touched on it, but you've said that you grew up watching a lot of pretty big names. I want to hear who you would say are your three favorite players that you've watched growing up.
Oh, that I've watched, men and women, right?
Yeah, let's hear it. Men and women.
Okay, yeah, I did. I keep bringing up Abby Wambach. I'm not, she's a 9. I'm outside back, but I just love her mentality. So love what she's done for the game. I have seen David Beckham play, and obviously I was just starstruck when he was at LA Galaxy. So my dad took me down there, and I was like, bought a jersey. It was just like, oh my God, he's here. So that, for the sake of, he was towards the end of his career, but I was just like, wow, it's him. So Abby Wambach, David Beckham. Who else? Oh my gosh, I feel like I've seen like so many people, but Julie Johnson. Well, now her last name has changed.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on her last name right now.
I cannot recall it either.
Yeah, she's married to an NFL guy, but anyway, she's retired. But we played against her in college when she played for Santa Clara. And obviously you're scouting the other team while you're playing, kind of sussing out who's like a threat, who's not. She was just so incredibly good. I was like, this girl is incredible. And then obviously went pro the next year, and she became like the superstar she is. I was like, I knew she was something. So in that game, I was like, that girl is good. And honestly, I'm a little bit like, I have very high standards sometimes. It takes me a lot to be like, wow, she is like really good. And she did that for me. So I would say those three off the top of my head.
It sounds like you've got a scouting brain.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like that's a holy trinity set of players. Very, very legendary. I mean, so many silverware bits between them all. I love it. That's a great 3-player mix. Kiley, thanks so much for joining me today. Myself and many very much look forward to see you kicking it off with the Rise very, very soon here in April. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been an awesome experience, and I hope to see you in person at a game, hopefully.
Absolutely. Awesome.